Prepare to be captivated by the business story of the week, hosted by me, Shaheen Shan. Join us on a journey through the twists and turns of entrepreneurial triumphs and setbacks. Immerse yourself in the narrative and witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. This is Business Story of the Week.
And we are back. Welcome once again to Business Story of the Week. I am your co-host Joshua, and today in every episode, like we always do, we adventure into the lives and journey of those who dare to dream and do. Today, every day, we navigate the world of entrepreneurship, business, innovation, uncovering stories of perseverance, struggle, and success. And our guest today is no stranger to success. And of course, the struggles of being an entrepreneur and, starting from all the scratches and all that challenges. Frederick Carey is a powerhouse entrepreneur and the CEO of Idea Pros, where he applies his extensive experience in building global companies to guide aspiring entrepreneurs. With a career spanning strategic consultancy, law, and investment banking, Carey specializes in transforming startups into successful enterprises. He holds a JD degree, completed a postgraduate studies at Harvard Law School, and obtained an international MBA with honors from the University of Liverpool. Recognized for its expertise in finance, enterprise software, mobile technologies, and consumer products, Carey has overseen the development of over 250 startups and has a rich history of leading successful mergers and acquisitions. Fred, how are you? Thank you for joining us today, and it's nice to have you here.
Well, this is going to be a lot of fun, I hope, and hopefully informative as well. God, when you read all that stuff about me, reminds me of my mom bragging about me.
Wow.
So hopefully I can live up to the
Well, I
expectations.
hopefully I did that introduction, did you a bit of justice with that introduction. But now that you've mentioned your mother, I'm really curious now, Fred. I always like to start with the beginning. I always start where this journey started. You have a diverse background. You have law,
Yeah.
consultancy, investment, which led you all the way to establishing Idea Pros. Where did it all start, and how did really, any experiences in life that kick-started this? And what was your vision in the journey when it all started?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because a lot of times you look at people that have those degrees and everything, and you think that they did this cookie cutter way of, I'm going to go here, I'm going to high school, I'm going to go to a great college, I'm going
Yeah,
to do my advanced degrees, and
yeah,
everybody's going to throw money at me. But I did it all ass backward. Literally, if you look at the pedigree, I had 6 months of community college at first when I started my first company, and I started my first company not because I wanted to change the world, but because I didn't think the world would have me. I was always kind of an outsider, my own independent thinker. I knew I was not going to fit well in a corporate structure, and I knew that if I was going to be able to do the types of things I wanted to do, I was going to have to do them on my own.
wow. Well, it really did sounds like so I love how you said that not everything is a cookie cutter, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like you said, like when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to business, it's all about like persevering and struggling. I feel like if with my experience with the extensive, background of all the guests I've had, and when it comes to entrepreneurship, it most of the time they really never really follow the traditional kind of like path towards it. So it's not always the answer to that, right? And I wanted to ask that and highlight that because it's something that our audiences kind of like look for when it comes to their journey, right? How is it that how does one really start to see that, okay, my journey is unique, and how do I take it from this, starting point into turning it into my own version of that journey? and you've had, experience with these successes. What do you think are the most common indications of success when it comes to startups?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's any definition of success when it comes to startups because
Wow.
success is fleeting. You can look at some of the biggest companies in the world that
Hmm.
came up with startups, and Amazon. Amazon was public, had billions of dollars in valuation, and were losing hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They did not make a profit for over a decade. And to be
Wow.
able to convince people to keep investing in this larger growth
Yeah.
opportunity that Amazon was going to become, that's a hard discussion to have with people.
Hmm.
Hey, look, I know I've lost you $1 billion. I need 3 more billion, and I think we can start making money. That's hard. So success is a very vague measurement when it comes
Hmm.
to entrepreneurship. I'd almost rather talk about individual success. And
Right.
individual success to me is pretty simple. Wake up in the morning, put your feet on the ground. Are you smiling? You're being successful. It's as simple as that because the money's going to come, the money's going to go. You're
Hmm.
going to have struggles, you're going to have victories, and
Hmm.
it's this game that you download that has no ending. And
Yes.
and so it's fleeting. Success, failure, success, failure. All the biggest names all went through that.
It really does feel like a game, right? Like, cause I love that. I love that. A game that you download that never ends, because that means you have to be all in. That means that this is something that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. And like I said, like you said, success is fleeting. It'll come and go. Money will come and go. Perhaps a better question to ask would have been like the challenges. What are the most common challenges that entrepreneurs face? And how do you overcome this? How do you teach them to navigate these common challenges?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge an entrepreneur faces is figuring out if they're really an entrepreneur
Right.
because you are going to have more struggle than you imagine. Things are going to go
Uh-huh.
more slowly than you imagine. The
Mhm.
world is not going to revolve around your brand new idea, and you have lot of, there's a millions of great ideas that go die in people's minds and never move out into the playing field of life. Wow, I'm coming up with all these. I'm gonna have to write a
Hey.
couple of these things down. But it's true. I mean, we all have great ideas. Executing on
Mhm.
those ideas is really, really hard. So the very first
Mhm.
struggle that an entrepreneur has to face is, am I willing to put up with the pain? Am I willing to put my feet in the fire? Am I willing to take a failure and learn from it instead of giving up from it? That's the very first step. And a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
entrepreneurs fail at that point
Yeah.
because they're not really entrepreneurs. They study all the biggest ones, all the best ones.
Right.
They've all cried at night. They've all stared at their ceiling, wondering what the hell they were doing with their lives and why they made such a stupid choice. But they keep persevering and they end up making it.
So it really is innate, so to speak. It's something that is, that's just. Is it something innate or is it something you build? Is, I guess, is one of the questions, because one of the things that's being pushed today, or like where one of the most common misconceptions, I believe, is that, you know get out of the 9 to 5 and start your own business. But not everyone can be a business owner. And I think that's an important message, in that there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5 if that's really the type of person you are. But how do
Yeah.
we counter that kind of messaging? How do we counter that in the sense that, okay, you want to do a business, you will make more money, but it's just not your type. And do you build it, or is it innate? What is the difference?
Well, it's the person who's willing to leave a perfectly cushy 9 to 5 jobs, 40 hours a week, making a lot of money, lots of benefits, retirement path ahead of them, and switching that 9 to 5 to a 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. and working
Precisely.
80 hours and making
Uh-huh.
no money at first. Right?
Hmm.
It takes a very unique individual. And on top of that, the second big problem with being an entrepreneur is when you go through that thing that every entrepreneur goes, you end up starting to feel you're a failure. God, I'm working twice
Yeah.
as much. I'm trying to do all these things. I
Hmm.
can't get anybody to invest in what I'm doing. Nobody believes in me. Even my mom won't take
Hmm.
my calls anymore. Am I doing the right thing? So you end up, you're going from this, wow, this is going to be easy. I get to do what I want, to this
Hmm.
imposter syndrome of maybe I'm not cut out for this. And it's only the entrepreneurs that get through that initial wave of pain that can go to the bright side that's just beyond that wall.
That's another line, Fred. You need to
Yeah,
write
I
that
know.
down.
I'm gonna have. I should have an assistant here.
All right, fantastic. So we'll do it. Well, that's fine. We'll set a recording of this. We can recap all of this, and you can put it in your book, maybe.
Yeah,
Fred, I want to talk a bit more about Idea Pros because, again, you said you went from that journey of like this a non cookie cutter journey. You did law, you did community college, but now you're successfully running a massive operations that isn't only it's not only probably raking in a lot of investment, but I imagine it's a lot of people. How did it get there? How did you go from again, I'm kind of repeating the question, but how do you go from community college to helping people just like blow up when it comes to their ideas as an entrepreneur?
yeah. Well, before I went there, I started 10 different companies, and
Hmm.
two of them ended up going public. Another two
Wow.
were acquired by public companies. I have
Uh-huh.
another private company called Imagine Communication
Uh-huh.
that does almost $1 billion a year now. All of them
Wow.
from paper napkin ideas, and all of them I learned through trial by fire. And when you look at the entrepreneur world, 95% of us are outsiders.
Right.
95% of us think that entrepreneurship is going to be easy, but it's
Hmm.
really, really hard. And so I started
Hmm.
on Idea Pros to be that company that was kind of your co-founder. That you're sitting there.
Right.
This is your first time. You don't know what to do. We're going to sit right
Uh-huh.
next to you, and you're going to take advantage of all my mistakes and all my connections and the ability I have to do the right things at the right time in the right way with the right positioning, and that gives you a really unfair advantage that I felt it was my time to give that back to others.
That is a great way to put it. That really kind of defines what trailblazers are, right? Or more like, um, Frederick Carey crawled so you can run as an entrepreneur.
Now you're
Precisely
coming up
like
with
that.
one-liners. We're going to change the name of this show.
Well, look, Fred. So, just share us a bit more about Idea Pros because you've handled like how many like 250 startups, and you've just like led these massive mergers and acquisitions. And how do you deal with all that basically? Now we were
Yeah.
talking about like prior to this show, like your assistants can't even keep up with all the hurricanes. So what is the kind of mentality that has led you to this kind of rich success in like handling all that startups?
Well, I'm not sure how a psychiatrist would classify me, but it's damn crazy. And we're up to 400 now from 250.
Oh my
We have
goodness.
400 companies that I own 30% of. That when they came to me, it was really at the idea stage. One founder, one idea, and we take
Hmm.
that and build out companies for them. I've also had 100,000 applications in that same period of time. So
Oh.
how Idea Pros works. In fact, I spent almost all of last year not taking any new clients because I had to figure out a way to make this bigger and to help more people. And
Right,
so we've
right.
taken what we do and we've broken down into little bite-sized pieces. So as an
Wow.
entrepreneur, you can start at free. You can go to ideapros.com and sign up for a free membership. And I load you
Hmm.
up every week with different valuable
Hmm.
information so you can learn. We have programs that are basically master classes for a few $100s, and then you can
Wow.
work your way up the food chain and just go on that journey however you want to at whatever speed you want to. So it's really democratizing entrepreneurship and taking outsiders and turning them into insiders.
This is great. Like to me, there's a sense of Sarah. This is more like a personal anecdote. Previously, just recently, a guest before this interview was talking about democratizing employment. You are democratizing entrepreneurship. So it's like two sides of the coin. It's fantastic.
Mhm.
Fred, you talked about like um, putting idea pros into bite-sized pieces, helping more people. Um, this is a question that I kind of is on my mind. How do you spot the good investments? Like, how do you know that this is gonna blow up? 400, like all that out of 100,000 applications, you hit on 400 ones that were surefire, that went surefire. How did you point? How did you spot those?
Well, it may, in fairness to the 99,600 others, uh, it's not necessarily that these 400 were the best. It's that
Mhm.
that's all the bandwidth we had. That's why I didn't take
Right,
any new ones almost all of last year, so I
right.
could figure out how to be able to take more people and help more people. But the
Mhm.
things that we look for that's even more important than the idea. I mean, the idea has to have merit, but the person is the
The
most important
person.
thing because what I was
Mhm.
saying is you get a big fallout of people that think they want to be entrepreneurs, and the second they feel the pain, it's just like I'm out of here, and they go back to where they were. So sifting through who's going to have the resilience to make it. And by the way, you can look at why don't we start with the richest guy in the world? Although I think last week he's now no longer the richest guy. Somebody just passed him, but Elon
Uh-huh.
Musk. Um,
Mhm.
in 2008, Elon Musk had already sold PayPal, already had $250 million, spent a bunch of it, had 90 million left. He put half of it in SpaceX, half of it in Tesla,
Mhm.
and it was
Mhm.
2008. It was getting near the end of the year, and both of the companies were sucking wind, gasping for
Mhm.
air, and about ready to
Mhm.
go down. And he had to make a decision which one he'd put $45 million in because he wanted to keep at least 45 million for himself. But then he thought
Mhm.
it was like killing one of his children. And he decided to take all
Yep.
his money, and
Uh-huh.
put 45 in each company and have nothing. He literally slept on couches of friends to be able to survive. And it was only because that he took that sacrifice at the very end and bet everything again that he was able to now be successful. And that's the type of, not everybody's going to be an Elon Musk.
Mhm.
Not everybody's
Mhm.
going to be that stupid. Really, I would have run away with 250 million, but he has this just never ending passion to discover and to
Mhm.
build things. And that's the type a person that has the resilience to face the fire, to jump off the cliffs, to spend
Mhm.
all their money when they made more money than almost anybody in the
Mhm.
world already, and he
Mhm.
still he still went and bet that all again for his dreams. And that's what we look for, even more than a really good idea, because when you get to the really good ideas, they're never good enough.
Wow.
And we have to do a lot of massaging and a lot of things that go through our system. When they come out the other end, could be something
Mhm.
completely different. But I know I have somebody at the helm that can pull it off
So the courage to bet on yourself
over and over again, even
over
when you
and over.
lose.
Okay.
I
Wow.
came
Okay.
in last place in this horse race. I got to do better.
Okay. That's a great way to add to that line. The courage to bet on yourself over and over and over and over again, because this
Yep.
is a fire that you need when it comes to really to navigate entrepreneurship. Um, Fred, with your experience and your in this whole landscape of entrepreneurship, I mean, there's this talk of solopreneurship, and there's this talk of like, like evolving landscape of entrepreneurship. What are trends that you're looking at right now, and what are the differences of like the startups or the entrepreneurs from what 10, 20 years ago to the ones that you are dealing with today?
I think the biggest difference is not what everybody talks about, technology and AI and Web 3.0 and all that stuff. The biggest difference is, as a CEO, you need to be a financial CEO. You need
Right.
to be, you're either raising money, spending the money you just raised, or figuring out what you need to do with your next raise. You have to understand numbers. You have to understand how to speak to investors. You really need to understand all of the stuff that nobody wants to understand. You really need to understand, including me, by the way. You need to understand that more than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Investors are more sophisticated. Investors
Mm-hmm.
don't care that you want to revolutionize the world. That scares the shit out of them because how many times have you had a revolution before successfully?
Mm-hmm.
Investors want to hear about evolution. Investors want to hear about numbers. Investors
Mm-hmm.
welcome the fact that you have competitors because you can
Mm-hmm.
point to them and say, these three competitors proved up my market and they went to $1 billion in 3 years,
Right.
but they forgot this one thing. And all these customers are saying they need this one thing. And that's what I've created. I've created the one thing that nobody has in a huge exploding market. That's what investors want to hear. And you have to know how to speak to investors. You have to know finance and you have to know what goes on in the mind of an investor. I'll take a risk, but it needs to be calculated, needs to be in a robust market with a
Mm-hmm.
demand in it, and you little bastards need to be the ones that are filling that demand. That's
Mm-hmm.
it.
So the numbers, the boring part, the
Yeah,
accounting, you have to know that if you don't like it now, you have to like it. You have to learn to like it if you even want to make it out there in the investor world.
right. And for
Um,
God's sakes, don't tell any investor that it's $100 billion market, and if I can capture 1%, we're going to be really successful. They'll walk out of the room halfway through your sentence.
okay,
You
so
don't
that's
build
what
business. You don't build businesses on 1%.
to our audience and listeners, make sure you note that down. We're going to
Hmm.
recap that. We're going to put that on a clip too. We're nearing the end of this thread, and it's been such great wisdom from you. But I really want to ask this, and I really want to kind of want to close always on this kind of note: is that like, what is the future for Frederick Curry? What are your future aspirations when it comes to idea pros, entrepreneurial support? Looking ahead, what are what do you see? I mean, you already said like you've done bite-sized smaller support for entrepreneurs and shaping, their challenges and how they can do better. But how do you see yourself shaping the future of entrepreneurship with idea pros?
Um, I have It's the only market I've ever been in where 95% of the market's not being served.
Wow.
It's complicated with social media because you get a 20-year-old kid with a Lamborghini saying, "Give me $500, I'll make you a millionaire in 5 hours," and everybody thinks it's really easy. But if you look at the data, 94% of entrepreneurs who are multimillionaires and billionaires, they all went to the best schools in the country. 60% of them have advanced degrees from those schools. They have a professor that can make a phone call down at Sand Hill Road and get you a $10 million check just for your vague idea. The rest of us, we don't have any support. We don't have any systems. We don't have any one place that we can go to. And so my goal for Idea Pros is to really continue to build out that infrastructure, this support system, really be that co-founder that you
Hmm.
really need to have that unfair advantage to get ahead. And so my goal is to continue building it so that if you're an entrepreneur, you're thinking about a business, or you're thinking about how do I get my $10 million company bigger, you're going to come to
Hmm.
us.
All right. That's, well, you guys, the audience listeners, you heard it first. Fred is the guy to go to. Idea Pros is the place to be. Fred, where can we find you? Where can we look for you? Where can we connect with you? And is there anything else you would like the audience and listeners to know?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, go to my Instagram page. That's completely free all the time. It's
Mhm.
official Fred Carey, Cary. I have
All right.
about 550,000 followers on there, and once a day, I say something about life, entrepreneurship, personal development, doing the right thing, just kind of motivational stuff. 1 minute a day. You have a effing minute, don't you? Get on there, official Fred Carey, and if you go on there, go on my link tree. I think the very first
Uh-huh.
link on there will lead you to my courses. I have a master class, 15 modules, everything that
Uh-huh.
you ever need to know about purpose-driven entrepreneurship. It is about $500, but for your audience, just take this code down. It's called Go Big. It's the first half of Go
Go
Big or Go
big.
Home, right? Go
All right.
Big. You put that down and it's free. It's for
Oh
15
my
modules.
goodness.
Listen, I'm telling you, it's all off the cuff from my heart, from all the experiences I've had. If you don't have time to watch that and learn about entrepreneurship, then that's the number one sign you're not an entrepreneur, because you're getting valuable advice for free. So,
Right.
official Fred Carey, go on there and find the course, which is the first thing. Go Big is your code, and it's free. The other thing that's free is ideapros.com. The very first thing you're going to see, free memberships. And we give you a lot of information. We're trying to prepare you to be a really kick-ass entrepreneur. We do free every couple of weeks. We do free workshops, 2-3 hour workshops. One I have is called Pitchcraft. It really goes deep on how to go out and raise money. Again, free, 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 free. And if you want to work and be with me for money, we accept cash too. But all that stuff is free.
Fantastic. Oh wow, Fred, you really are giving it all out there, everything you've learned, everything you've had, and you're just giving it all away for free. For the audience and listeners, Go Big is the code. Go look for that course. Go follow Fred on Instagram. I'm going to follow him myself. Fred, thank you so much for this time. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
wisdom. And I'll see you in the entrepreneurial future.
Take care, man.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.